feel free to take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Don Lepard. I'm the customer success manager, as Jeff said. I handle all the training and support for existing clients. Jeff Dazuka, who just spoke, is our lead account executive. If anyone today decides to upgrade to premium, or if you're new to AcreValue and want to sign up, Jeff can assist you with that. Uh, Moving on here, this is just the outline of today's webinar. We're going to go over specifically, we'll start with an overview of the popular types of toggles that we have, like the map toggle menus. It's lots of features that we've added recently, so that's going to be really cool to look through in detail. We've covered it in other webinars, but we've only just kind of skimmed through it. This time, we're going to click through each one. Um, Next, we'll talk about the measuring tools. So with the measuring tools, you'll be able to take accurate measurements of property lines and things like that. It comes in real handy if let's say you have water access or something on the property and you want to be able to see how much of that frontage is there. So we'll be using the measuring tools. And then the custom boundaries. So this is a really, really cool feature. It's really number one on my list of things that people, even myself who worked here for almost 6 months, never even noticed this one feature. And it's a huge part of AcreValue, and it's really, really cool feature, especially for the realtors that are on the line or any type of land buyer to be able to use this custom boundary features. And so we'll just dive into how that's used and some use cases. And lastly, Jeff is going to discuss custom data services. So we do a lot of really, really great lead lists, or if you have like a target list of people you want to contact, we can assist you with that. Okay, so we're going to dive right in to the live demonstration portion. For everybody who just arrived, again, this is recorded. I'm going to have it put on YouTube later today, so don't worry, you haven't missed anything. And then for those of you who just entered, we are recording this session. It's going to be on YouTube, so you might want to turn your camera off. Okay, so this is the AcreValue main page. This is where you would go if you wanted to see parcels or sold land. I like to scroll down to these tiles. This is really everything that you're going to view on AcreValue. Most specifically, most people start off in parcels. That's everybody's parcels. And then the sold land database. That's just comps or recently sold properties if you wanted to determine value. And next, skipping over the land for sale, that's pretty obvious, but the Market Explorer, a lot of times people spend a lot of time there as well. But we're going to go into the parcel view. And you can put a state or a county in, and you can scroll until you get to the area that you want. Or you can just put in a state and a county here at the top. So I'll just do that. And then it will, when this fills in, you'll see view all results, and it's going to take you to where you want to go. And then from here, you can either like put an address in to get closer, or you can just keep scrolling and scrolling until you find a property. And so I think I already have a area picked out here. So the first thing we're going to talk about are the toggle menus. So hopefully everybody here has gone through the AcreValue 101 and 102, where you learned how to locate property, you learned how to generate a report. Now we're showing the additional map views that you're able to see more data. So that's going to be right here, toggle data. It's on the left-hand side. If you select that, this menu pops up. Mine is preset to have everything turned off. I like to, when I go to an area, see a very clean map. Previously we had it to where when you would log into an area or you go to an area, you would see a bunch of icons for power lines, and you'd see icons for power plants, things like that. I like to, when I go to the menu, I like to see a very blank slate here. So as we go through these, you'll see that it's broken up into local data versus regional data. So we're going to look at local data first. So power generation. I think everybody realizes now that renewable energy is becoming huge in every single state. So part of the thing that energy providers or energy makers are looking for is, capacity and need. So to understand need, you have to see what power plants are in the area, what power generation sources are in the area. And so this menu shows battery storage, biomass, coal, geothermal, hydroelectric, natural gas, nuclear, which is really big in Illinois, petroleum, solar, waste heat, wind, and other. So in my area, let me just go to the wind turbines because I just have power plants selected. So in my area, we have a lot of wind turbines. So wind turbines are a lot of times put in rural areas where they don't want to put a power plant too far out, so they'll put wind turbines here. We're kind of pretty far away from Chicago in this example. But if you look here, you could see and I know this just from watching this be developed. It started out over here and it started moving more west. So if you had a property owner and you thought, man, I wonder if they'd be a good opportunity for solar or wind, you can see where these wind turbines are being placed, and you can see who owns them, and you can contact them and say, hey, are you looking to build more wind turbines? Because I have a person who has land there that they're not really sure what they want to do with it. And they might be interested in buying it. They might only be interested in leasing it. Both are very lucrative to realtors. I know we have a couple of realtors on the line today. So this is a moneymaker here, especially if you just go through your book of business and you're like, okay, I see there's wind turbines being built here. Who do I have in this area here that potentially would want to be interested in this? So I think we went over that pretty well here. So I don't think there's any solar here. I'm not seeing any solar in this area, but we can always go to another area and try to look for some solar. So I'm going to turn the power generation off now. And now I want to look at the electrical grid, so the existing grid. So this is very important to electric developers because they want to see, are there is there substations nearby? Where's the electrical grid actually at? So this shows where there are substations. So we have 2 substations here. And then we have different types of electrical structures in this area as well. So you can see them here represented in gray. And then I'm going to add in the transmission lines because those kind of go along with this. So now you can see the substations a little bit better because you see all the transmission lines. Transmission lines are the high voltage lines that carry to distribution lines. The distribution lines are what you see inside your neighborhood. I just click those on and now you're able to see the distribution lines. So these are important. Let's say that you are a land owner or you're a realtor and you're thinking, I wonder if this parcel of land my client has would be a good opportunity for development, whether it's commercial or residential. First thing that we'd work with home builders all the time. The first thing I want to know is there power there? This is going to help you determine that there's power in that area. Next, they want to learn is if there's plumbing. You can find that out by just contacting the local waterworks. And these are the electrified areas. So this shows how further out from those distribution lines the power goes. Okay, so we did the electrical grid there. I'm going to show you the oil infrastructure. There's not going to be a whole lot in the area that I'm at, but it does show there is in this area there is 2 oil wells. This is a gas producer, sorry. This is a gas producer temporarily abandoned. So it really shows the status of these. The one I just clicked on showed that it was a permit to start drilling. But these are good to know. I think if you suspect that there might be potential for gas or what oil, this is a good opportunity to look at that. I think the most use that you're going to get from this is to see if there was an abandoned one. on a piece of property. It might not be obvious from pictures that there was an abandoned oil well, because a lot of times I think they take the structures down, but the well itself will remain. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. But if it's a huge parcel of land, a lot of land buyers are not going to walk the property. I know specifically from talking with land buyers and developers, especially solar developers, they do aerial satellite images for this exact purpose because they do not want an oil well, or they don't want contaminated sites, and they don't want evidence that there is a contaminant there. So that's one of the due diligence things that they do. This can kind of help prime you by saying like, well, I know my client doesn't want this, so I'm not going to look at this property. Okay, let's move on here. These are production facilities. So like, this might be good if you have a farmer that wants to sell their produce there to like soybean plants or ethanol plants, biodiesel. So this is distance from those facilities. Um, Now, this goes along the same lines as what I was talking about before. These are remediation sites. So these are really, really important, especially if you have somebody that wants to build commercial or residential structures. If, brownfield and Superfund sites, or sites that may have had contamination in the past, or they do have contamination, are being monitored by the EPA. And in some situations, the EPA is uh, facilitating the actual cleanup of the area. Other situations where they don't know who contaminated it and the EPA is working on it. And some sites they're just not working on, and it's just contaminated, and it will remediate itself over time. But this will show those sites, if there are any in your area. So they come up as this big red scary contamination, um, and then you can see what type of super site, super fund, or brownfield it is. Brownfield will be in the actual brown color. There's also emergency response sites. There's the RCRA sites, and then federal facilities. So these federal facilities are kind of interesting too. I don't think it's a huge requirement, but we do, like where I live personally in South Chicago area, the south of Chicago itself. There is a federal facility where they house military equipment, and so there is a lot of traffic that goes through there. So it's nice to know that, so that maybe your client doesn't want to be around all that. Okay, so moving on, protected areas. I think this is really cool to look at. So this is local fees lands or easements. You can see here different protected lands. This might be useful if it's a farmer and they don't want any issues with the EPA. They don't want any runoff into protected areas or things like that. That might be very useful. Or it could be the opposite. Maybe there's a nice, beautiful park that a person knows is never going to be developed because it's protected lands, and they want to buy the property next to it because they want to build and not have neighbors on the back half of their property. So I think that's can be very, very useful. Just to clarify, these are conservation easements, not the easements that you might be thinking of as far as like road access or things like that. And then the water bodies. This is along the same lines. I think it's interesting to look because on a map, you can usually see the large waterways. This shows even little dots of water that are registered here. So this is, again, really useful, especially in states where water access is needed for the growing of crops. This can be especially useful having this filter to be able to look at the waterways, even if they're minuscule, because those could make a big difference in whether someone wants to buy farmland. I know in California and places out west, access to water is huge. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out, and then we're going to look at regional data. So let me close this down. So these are all having to do with the electrical grid here. And so this is mainly used for our energy providers, for them to be able to see what areas are being covered by, fossil fuel or coal closure communities. And then you can see different map layers as far as electrical retail territories, electrical holding companies, electrical planning areas, and ERC coordinators, and then independent system operators, and then FERC regions. There were very specific niche energy providers that requested this type of information. If these terms aren't familiar to you, you're probably not going to need them for any purpose. We may do a training on what these different things are as well later on. So keep an eye out for that, or at the very least, we might create a video to put on YouTube. Next are protected areas. So this is national fee lands, regional fee lands, policy designated lands, and protected waters. Protected waters are especially important to farmers and things like that. If you have somebody who wants to build an industrial building, and they might not want to be next to protected waters because they don't want any blowback or issues with the EPA. So this is very good information, and it takes 2 seconds to navigate to the plot of land that your person wants to buy or you're interested in buying, and clicking on some of these filters to see what it uncovers. Geoscience, our manager and data scientist is a rock nerd, as I call it. So we have geological data that we've added. It is very, very interesting to look at what the makeup of the land is. So these maps are really cool, and you can kind of click on them and see what type of rock it is. I have been told that energy providers do have to understand what the lay of the land is when they're interested in parcels. So we do have elevation maps. If you did our AcreValue 101, you will see the elevation maps that are generated with every single report. I do know in certain states like Oregon, they needed to know the soil type, because like the soil type, if it's a class A soil, which is prime for farming, they cannot build solar or wind there. And I've been told that the actual makeup of the land is important. I'm sure it's important for drilling and for oil and gas. So there's probably a lot of uses for this. As far as use cases I've heard, I've not come across too many so far. But if you have any specific use cases, throw them in the chat. I think it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say about that. And then last, we threw these in for fun. These are the local hiking trails. I think that if you are buying a person a plot of land that might be for recreational purposes, this could be really fun to add in there, that you've also researched the local hiking trails in the area. So we're gonna have a live demo, I'm sorry, a Q&A session towards the end. So if you have any questions, just throw them into the chat, and then we'll address them at the end here. So moving along, we have next the measuring tools. So for measuring tools, I pulled up an area here. Oh, let me see here. Measuring tools. There we go. I pulled up an area here. We have a plot of land. So to get to the measuring tools, we are in the parcel view. So up here on the top left, parcel view. And then I was just zoomed in on a piece of property. You don't need to have the state or county filled out for the measuring tools, but you will click on this down here. Again, this is another section where I think people just look over. They don't look down here in the corner. They don't really need to use these plus or minus if you have a mouse that zooms in and out. So, but this is the measuring tools. You click on this, a red menu here pops up with some options. And the first I'm going to show is just a basic measuring tool. So you would use this if you wanted to know how much space is between 2 points. And so you see here that it is 0.22 miles or 1,153 feet. And then you can delete that, and you could do the opposite direction if you wanted to. Oops, excuse me. From here to here. I think it's really helpful, especially in I picked this property because it kind of goes like this towards the end. So someone might be interested in knowing at the very top what's the width and what's the width at the bottom, and you would be able to tell them that within honestly a few seconds, not even minutes. This doesn't take hardly any time at all. And then another thing you can do, which in the custom boundary section that I'm going to show you here in a minute, you can figure this out as well. But let's say you had well, here's a good example right here. There's a piece of residential property here, and it's parceled out. So in Illinois, that's pretty common where we will have the residential section in a parcel, and then we'll have the farming section, agricultural section in another parcel. But let's say you wanted to just this wasn't parceled out, and you wanted to know how many square feet or how many, acreage is that part itself. Well, you'll be able to do that easily. So it is 9.02 acres, and it's a 393,000 square feet. So I think this will be really useful for realtors if you have like a body of water, the pond or something, and somebody wants to know how wide it is, and you really can't judge it by the map. I think that's going to be really, really useful. Um, there's other situations too, like if you have a client and they want to know, um, you know, here's a good situation here over here. So let's say that this is farming and this is left as not farming. If your client wants to know, well, how much of that farming area does that make up? You can easily go here and in a matter of seconds, figure that out. So see how it's still connected? I clicked on the last spot. You have to click on this last spot again or double click for it to stop. So let me do that one more time, a little bit slower. So I clicked on the measuring area. I click in my first spot. Actually, let me do it from a different spot. Sorry. Okay. I want to do it from here. I want to show like how accurate you can get with this. I'm going to do in the corner. I'm going to do in the corner here. My apologies. Corner here, and I want to go around this structure. I want to show you how accurate this can be. And I'm going to do at the bottom here, and this is my last spot, so I'm going to double click. So that tells me that's 37.1 acres, but you see how accurate I got around the structure. I've done this on waterways, where you can do the whole shoreline and get every single piece of land in there and make a very accurate measurement. So I think that's everything that we can show here. You can also measure angles and things like that. But I think that's the use case there. If anybody has any questions in regards to the measuring tools, drop that into the chat. If you have a good scenario in which you think that would be useful, put it in the chat. These tools get overlooked so much that we don't have a lot of feedback from our clients about it. We know it's great, but we don't have a lot of feedback from our clients. So yeah, pop any interesting stories in there. Okay, moving on. Now we're going to go to the custom boundaries. This is my favorite, and that's because it gets overlooked. And I think because I overlooked it very early on, just because I'm so used to looking at parcels and sold land in the community section, I never noticed this custom boundaries here. But if you click on the custom boundaries section, you'll come to a map. Generally, the boundaries aren't always filled in here. So if there's a edit button right next to it that takes you to a separate area. And in this area, you get to see the boundary lines. And this is really useful if you have somebody that's maybe they want to split the parcel here. Then you want to know, okay, I'm going to split this right down the middle. And generate a report directly on just that parcel. This is again, you can use the measuring tools to quickly determine square footage and things like that. But if you wanted to generate a report showing just that information, this is where it comes in really useful. Another thing you can do is I have two parcels here that I've already looked at. Actually, let me delete one of them and give a really good example. I'm going to do the draw polygon again. Let's say I wanted to look at this parcel here, and then I went up and I created this boundary here. And remember, double click at the end. All right, so it created the parcel, the boundaries, and you know that your client wants to buy half of this boundary, of this parcel, and all of this one. You can generate a report and select merge. So you can select the parcels and merge them together by holding shift and then select merge, and it will merge the parcels together, and you can generate a report. Okay. Of course, this is not going to work when I want it to. Let me redraw the boundary. Let me draw a different boundary. Okay, and we're going to select both. Okay, so when I have them both highlighted now, and you'll notice that these change color. And when they're both highlighted, you'll see the merge option. And so if you select merge, it will combine them together. And then up here in the right-hand corner, you'll see get full report. You can also edit this from this menu as well. But this is really useful if you have a client or you are the client and you want to a full report that has all the boundaries that you selected. Because you know this might be 3 different owners, but I don't want all 3 of them, but I only want certain sections of it on one report and maybe a full report later on. So this can be really, really useful, especially if you have somebody who, only wants a part of a property. This is probably an example where somebody only wanted part of the property and it got divided and is now owned by 2 different owners. And this property has 2 different grow sites on it, it looks like. And this might be a situation where maybe these owners who live in this parcel right here don't need all this land and they want to sell it and they want to divide it and they want you to generate a report on it. This is how you would do that within AcreValue. Jeff, is there anything else here I should cover, or do we want to move into the custom data?
Looking at the time here, let's go ahead and just quickly brief folks on the custom data. So I'll actually handle that discussion real quick.
Mhm.
For the folks who are on the call who are looking for maybe outreach to landowners, let's say, for example, if, relating back to some of the tools that we were talking about today, if you're looking for landowners within a certain distance from a particular property, maybe there's some folks that you want to reach out to who own property, within a certain distance from yours, and you want a better way to reach out to them. AcreValue also has custom data services that are available so that we can put together landowner lists that make it a lot easier to send mailers, for example, potentially include phone numbers and emails so that you have a way to get in touch with those folks easier. It is a custom process. It is included in the enterprise subscription. So real quick, just to kind of touch on this point here as well, for some of the tools that you've seen, like the measuring tools and other basic information, you're more than welcome to purchase a subscription for consumers at acrevalue.com. Just visit acrevalue.com and you'll find the pricing tab up at the very top. For power users and more commercial applications, for example, these custom mailing lists that I'm talking about, you'll want to flip over to the enterprise subscriptions, in which case you'll have a discussion with myself or somebody else on our team to put together the right subscription for you and your needs. So we'll certainly leave up Dawn's contact info here as well. And then if you do have any questions, feel free to email Dawn or contact support@acrevalue.com, in which case, we can connect you to me and we can have a discussion about what your subscription would look like.
I will tell you, we are running specials on power users for not just the system access, but also for bulk data. So realtors, don't sleep on the bulk data. I mean, we have energy companies coming to us every single month, spending tens of thousands of dollars on data so that they can market to potentially your clients. A smart way to, if you know that you are seeing a lot of energy opportunities pop up in your area, these landowners need someone advocating on their behalf. They need a realtor to negotiate these contracts because they're going to get not the best deal if they try to do it on their own. So you can make some money and also really help a client if you are market to them first. So a good mailer that we could help you with the list for is just to say, hey, if you're approached for an energy conversation, a renewable energy conversation, get me involved. I can help you maximize your lease amount.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's open up for the Q&A.
Looking at our time here as well, we've got probably just enough time for a couple of questions here. So first question was, what filter or toggle do you have for locating timberland? Which was a discussion that would be applicable to some of the concepts that we've talked about, but is not something that we covered in this webinar. Don, do you want to show off that additional feature?
Um, yes. So let me go to quote me timber. I would go here, I believe, right?
Correct. Yep,
Yeah.
land use.
Land use. Okay, so let me not do that so fast. I wasn't sure where it was for a second. So I'm in parcel view. So always make sure you have parcel. And whenever you use the more menu, you have to fill out the at least the state, but you should do the state and county. And then select more. That's going to pull up your filter menu, and then you're going to scroll down to land use. Then you're going to have forestry. And then you can actually put the percentage of the parcel. Like if you want only to look at parcels that are, 100 acres or more, and at least 50% of the field has forestry in it, you can put those filters in place. And then you just hit apply
Correct. And
filters.
another prominent use case for that filter is to try and find folks who own properties mostly with forest land. If you're the type of person who, your business is around marketing to those types of landowners, again, reach out to us. We can do a lot with the custom data services, and we have generated lists around trying to target landowners with predominantly forests as well. This tool, as well as the custom data services, again, are going to be within the enterprise level subscriptions. So reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you with that.
Yeah. What else do we have?
I do have a follow-up question on that point, which is, will you cover that bulk mailing re-energy development more in the future? Like to know more market to clients being affected by utility improvements, i.e. eminent domain. We could certainly do that. We do have a couple of webinars around that point as well, but what I would say more directly is, Jen, if you're still around and you'd be willing, could you I'm going to shoot you a message over the Zoom chat in a moment here. And if you could send over your email address and phone number, I'd be happy to connect with you directly. And we could certainly take 15 minutes to talk about your exact use case and how we could help. So let me send you a chat. In the meantime here, another question that came up, are you able to impose meets and bounds descriptions onto the measuring tools themselves?
Hmm.
And so that's another great question. You can use the measuring tool to find the point of beginning, so where you're going to be starting the actual measurement for as well. So Don, if you want to pull that up.
Okay. What am I doing here? Sorry.
Perfect. And so, yeah, when you click measure distance, what you'll notice is that you'll see the lat and long displayed on the screen as well. So you can use that to find that first point where you're going to be starting the parcel. After that, you'll be able to measure out a certain distance just by clicking another point. Yep. And so you've got your distance. You can click and drag the second point as well to move that to the distance that you need it to be. And repeat that process again and again until you've got that final boundary point. I did also see another question. Again, for folks who are joining a little bit later, this webinar will be or is being recorded and will be distributed via YouTube as well later. So no worries if you're joining in a little bit later. You'll be able to catch the recording of it later as well.
Perfect. Any other questions?
That is all that I can see here. So we'll leave this open for maybe another minute or so, just so anyone's got another question. Looks like we're good. Okay, so Yeah, again, thank you for joining us here. We will be distributing the recording to this webinar. If you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to support@acrevalue.com is a great way to get in touch with us. Otherwise, if you do have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to Don or myself, and we'd be happy to help you as well. Thanks again for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.